Hey folks, this is Matt Chat and this is my plywood canoe building adventure. It was supposed to be a cheap 2-week project, but instead it took a couple of months. I ended up building 2 canoes, built a canoe carrying dolly, a boat rack for my truck, and a hanging system for canoe storage. I made tons of mistakes and probably would have given up if it weren't for the money I had already spent. It became an amazing adventure, all for a canoe I wasn't sure I was going to use. Good morning. Yesterday I glued on the top rails of the gunwales on the back part of the canoe, and I haven't done this one because I'm hoping I can use one of the pieces that I'll cut off of the others to use this piece here. I had to let this dry before I could do that, so I couldn't proceed any further. Yesterday as well, what I did is I worked on the end piece over here. So as you can see, I've begun shaping it. I can't say that this is the end shape. I'm still missing the top rail of the gunwale here, so I didn't want to actually finish the shape completely. And the way it tightens up over here, I'm not satisfied with at this point. It's got to come in a bit more, so I'm going to have some more work to do. This wasn't easy to do. I put oak on the end. The oak meant I couldn't just come in directly with a chisel, which was my method to make this shape originally. So I had to chisel going down like this with the oak, and then chisel like that for the pine. So I'm going to start working on removing the materials from the other side and shaping the other piece. I'm going to show you how I did that. So the first part I want to do is right over here. I want to cut this piece of wood right here. There's a little edge, and the best way I can do that is with the saw. I've tried it on the other side, and it was the quickest, simplest, easiest way. So that's what I'm going to do. I preset the saw to a certain depth so it doesn't cut more than necessary, and I'm not going to cut further along. I'm just cutting this area right here. I've been preparing my end piece for the carving. Now, chisel carving is about the only way I could come up with to do this work. I don't know if you can see here, but I'll see if I can focus that in. But I've drawn some lines in the center here, and some lines going out, radiating out at the halfway mark, and they're all to give me an idea of where to cut on the wood. It's not exactly an easy process. It's a bit painstaking, but the wood is oriented in the right way so that to make carving easy, and all is aligning that way with few knots. This one, however, does have a knot right there, so that's going to be a bit of a trouble. It's not too big a knot. I managed to cut most of it out. And I have the extra trouble that this here is a piece of oak and it's going this way while the grain of this wood is going that way. You cannot cut in like this with the chisel. It'll just shatter the piece. So you have to start off by cutting down like this with the chisel, removing this piece, and then you can start removing that piece. So I'm basically going to start shaping it. It's a rough shape, but this is the way to do it. Good morning. Back at the canoe. Well, I've finished the basic sanding on the canoe. The shape is where I want it to be on the end pieces. Let me show you here, actually. Let's just move that here and go down. You can see the outline of the shape here. It's gotten to just about where I want it. It's balanced on both sides. Each side here is the same. This was the problem with this first piece, but now I have the front and the back done the same, and it's got that gradual, that's what I had envisioned, the gradual conversion from this nice smooth curve to this sharp point, which would join into the keel. The only mistake in all of this, I guess, is the keel itself, which is really not very big. But I think it's going to be big enough, particularly after I fiberglass it, which is today's project. I want to put on some fiberglass on the keel underneath, and I'm going to try to do 3 layers. Now, I've done fiberglass a few times, as you've seen on the canoe, but I'm still an amateur at it, and I'm learning, and I'm making mistakes all the time. For example, oh, it's a bit dirty here, but I don't know if you can see here. I'll focus in. If you go looking at the fiberglass in there, you can see ripples. Let's see if I can focus in there. There you go. See those ripples there? Those bubbles? Well, that's occurred because I don't know why. I wasn't there to push them back down when I was, because they were flat when I left, but they raised up. I guess there's tension in it and it just lifts up, or there's a way that air can get in. I don't know, but that's a mistake that I've done. You can also see, let's see here, if I just pull up there, you can see the edge. Camera's trying to grab 2 focuses at the same time. Sorry. You can see these edges here where I didn't bother cutting the fiberglass down, and so I have these, they're sort of like these pockets, but it's made of fiberglass and it's sharp, and if you rub against it you could cut yourself. So it all has to be sanded down, sanded away. Something's got to be done with it. So those are some of the mistakes I've done with fiberglass, but now I'm going to do something completely new, something I've seen on other videos, to put in 3 layers of fiberglass. And I'm going to start with just a layer over the keel and just down onto the wood, then a wider one and an even wider one over it. I've got some 6-inch wide material, so I can go to town on it. But I'm worried about fidgetiness, because what I find is that you end up pushing and pulling with that paint roller, and it just moves the cloth, and air bubbles get in all the time. It's very, very difficult to deal with, and because of the narrowness of my keel, I have a feeling that maybe my material is going to want to bubble up. So I'm not sure really. Maybe I'll put a crease into it before. Oh, I don't think that material is very creasable. Anyway, we'll just play with it as we go, and we'll see what we get out of it. If I don't get a perfectly smooth keel, that'll be the price I have to pay, I guess. I have determined that using a regular paint roller, you know, with that you use for latex paint or something like that, that's wrong. You just don't use that. I can tell you that. That's a lesson I've learned, because it leaves all sorts of fibers stuck in the glue behind it as a trail. It's constant. You just can't stop it from doing it, and it is absolutely irritating because it messes up all your epoxy forever. I mean, try to pulling out these little hairs, you know, it's just not going to happen. So that's a lesson. So now it's buying the right type of foam roller. And if we go over here, switch like that, and show you the right roller. Here it is. So this is the roller you want. Foam roller, not too wide, not too thick. Those little white rollers, I'll show you those. You've seen them before. Of course, I've got them way down here. Oh, let's see, there we go, I got one. Now, I was using these guys here. Now, they're common. You can find these all over the place. These you have to ask for and look for. They're a little harder to find, although they're not expensive particularly. But these guys, I found they're too wide. So you're doing your spot at 2 inches, right? This is more than 2 inches, this is 3 inches. So you're trying to keep it from spreading around, and this thing is just spreading it all over the place. And by second, the foam absorbs more and more epoxy until eventually it becomes heavy and thick of it, full of epoxy. It starts heating up. The foam will break. You can't do any using the end as a tool of some sort to smudge things. It'll break right off on you. So not that great. So this is the one I've seen used most often, and I think that this is going to be my new experience this time, and I'm going to use this for the keel. I have great visions in my mind of rolling that, and the material just adheres to the keel perfectly, and it'll just be beautiful. However, we'll see how it goes. And I have a feeling it's going to use a fair amount of epoxy as well. So this is going to be quite the epoxy day. But even before I start on the keel, I have to do some work on the canoe itself. I did the Gunwales, so I don't know if you can see this here, but I'll focus in on the gunwale at a particular spot. Let's see here. Where's my hand? Well, there we are. You can see that line there? You can see that line? That's not a pencil line, that's a crack. So the crack is because when I install the gunwales, as you've seen before in the video, I couldn't make the curve with the wood, so I used 2 pieces, one outside piece, one inside piece, and there's a line that goes through, and I want to fill that line with epoxy that's thickened, and I also want to fill in those areas over here with the center thwart. That's an area that's gaping, and I don't like that, and so I want to fill it all in, and it'll solidify the whole area. And over here on this side, I actually missed my cut. It was a blade or short, and so there's a gap there that I want to fill in. And there's also, I did this has all been put together with air gun nails, and then glued it in place to hold it. It was just too difficult otherwise. As a result, there are all these little nail holes all through this gunwale. So what I want to do is I want to go and fill those in with some epoxy filler, and that should take care of this job first. So once I do this, then I can flip it over and start working on the keel. So, and I suspect this will dry while it's upside down. I don't have a problem with that. I think that'll work just fine. All right, so let's get at it. Enough babbling. With the epoxy applied, it's now time to train. That's going to be it for this part of my canoe building adventures. I want to thank you for joining in, and I want to remind you not to forget to subscribe to my channel. Hopefully we'll find a lot of progress in the next episode. See you soon.